Thank you all so much for clicking on today's Seattle Seahawks video. Before we dive into some news and rumors, mostly around the offensive coordinator search, if you haven't already, hit that big red button and subscribe. The offseason, it might be here, but we're not going anywhere. In fact, we're going to keep giving you guys videos almost every single day on the Seahawks. So if you want to stay up to date, hit that big red button and subscribe today. Couple rumors and some news items on today's video. A lot of them focused, unsurprisingly, on the Seahawks offensive coordinator search. We'll begin with Russell Wilson and some of his comments, which I do find fascinating here. He says and made it very clear he wants to be a part of the Seahawks search for an offensive coordinator. Now, as we all know, let Russ cook. The campaign started so great, and then just kind of quickly fell apart after around the midway point of the season as teams adjusted and Seattle was unable to really counter-adjust. My fear / almost intrigue here is whether or not Pete Carroll and Russell Wilson are on the same page. Wilson seems to be more willing and more desirous of airing it out. Pete Carroll wants to go back to the ground game. Here's what Wilson had to say about the whole offensive coordinator search. It is critical, super significant, obviously, that I'm a part of that process. Coach and I, meaning Pete Carroll, have definitely been talking about that. John Schneider, too, as well. We've had some super long dialogues about the thought process of who we want and kind of that idea of a leader, thought process, innovator, and all that kind of different stuff that you want. I do think I want to emphasize the part of innovator there. Brian Schottenheimer was not much of an innovator when it came to the passing game. If that's what Seattle wants, I think there are some guys who could fit that mold. But what you have to find a way is to recapture that magic that the offense showed in the first 2 months or so of the season when Russell Wilson was completing 71.5% of his passes, was on pace for well over 4,000 yards, had 26 touchdowns, was his adjusted yards per attempt was well over 9. It was one of the best in the NFL. And then the back half, not including the bad playoff game, by the way, completion percentage drops by a good 5%. The yards aren't even as good in terms of total with 2 extra games. The touchdowns get cut almost in half. The interceptions stay up high. And the adjusted yards per attempt, again, it drops by 2.5. That's significant. Now, in the end, the total yards for Wilson, 4,040 touchdowns, it looks pretty good, but it was very much a tale of two halves. I believe that Seattle must find a way to unlock the passing attack. I am unconvinced, however, that's what Pete Carroll and this coaching staff wants to focus on. So let me know in the comments section who you guys want as the Seahawks offense coordinator. We're about to dive into 2 names that have been linked to the job here, but I'm going to make this question the pinned comment on today's video. So if you get the ad break, scroll on down and get your votes in. Let's talk about one of those names here, Doug Pederson, the fired Eagles former head coach. He reportedly has spoken with Seattle about the offense coordinator position. Now remember, he's from Washington State. I think he's a good offensive mind. Pederson in Philadelphia, they ran a lot more RPOs, those run-pass options, than the Eagles did, or than with Wilson. So Pederson ran those more. I would like to see the Seahawks do something similar there. I think that would be a good idea to unleash the Russell Wilson passing attack, which struggled in the short game for whatever reason. I think it'd be a good idea to utilize more of those RPOs and use those run-pass options. I think Pederson would work well with Russell Wilson. Now, through his NFL career, kind of a quick rise, right? Was the Eagles' quality control coordinator back in 2009 to 2010 and becomes Eagles quarterbacks coach and then the Chiefs OC and makes the leap to Philadelphia and did a pretty good job, but that just kind of fell apart quickly. I don't think Pederson liked working with Howie Roseman, amongst other things there. Maybe it could be an issue for Pete Carroll, but in terms of a Russell Wilson-friendly hire, I think Pederson fits that mold. Now, we'll talk about Anthony Lynn in a second. Before we do, though, today's show is made possible by our sportsbook partner, BetUS. Head over to chatsports.com/bet. Use the promo code. It's right there. Seahawks 125. That gets you a 125% deposit bonus, so it's pretty simple math, right? Put down $100, boom, an extra 125 coming your way for free. That's all available when you go to chatsports.com/bet. Takes you right to the BetUS site. And don't forget to use that promo code Seahawks125. Let's talk Anthony Lynn now, as promised here. He's also spoken with Seattle about that vacant offensive coordinator job. Both Lynn and I think Doug Pederson, too, could opt to sit out a year. I suspect, especially with the leak that the Seahawks were interested in Shane Steichen, the Chargers offensive coordinator, logically they would have interest in the head coach, Anthony Lynn. And I think Lynn's philosophy, his desire and background of being a run guy, fits better with what Pete Carroll prefers. Look at what Lynn has done really since 2007, right? Browns and Jets and Bills, all running backs coach. He also got the assistant head coaching nod late with his time in Buffalo and late with his time in the Jets too. Was the Bills' interim head coach and OC. Kind of the only time he's been a full-time offensive coordinator, or full-time, but calling the plays. You guys get it. Chargers head coach on top of that. So you've got two intriguing options here, one of which I think favors Russell Wilson a little bit more with what I think he wants to do, and one that I think favors Pete Carroll's ground game philosophy, which I think is Anthony Lynn. So pick an offensive coordinator for me here. Get your votes in the comment section. Type in L for Anthony Lynn or type in P for Doug Pederson. Let's talk Josh Gordon here, unfortunately so. NFL has officially suspended him indefinitely again. Now to recap it here, Gordon was granted conditional reinstatement. He was supposed to come back around week 16 for this Seahawks team. And then it was revealed by the NFL that he failed to meet those conditions, and now he's been suspended indefinitely again. And like many of you, I wonder now if this is the end of Josh Gordon's time in the NFL. He signed that one-year deal with the Seahawks, so technically speaking, he's going to be a free agent this offseason. Last time we saw him in 2019 with the Patriots and Seattle, pretty decent. Like, he offered some big play vertical threat option, and I liked him in that role, and I thought he could be a good number 3 for Seattle. When you have DK Metcalf and Tyler Lockett, you can play Lockett more in the slot, and just ended up never really materializing here. And now if you're Seattle, I love DK Metcalf. I love Tyler Lockett. I want another number 3 guy, and I'd like someone who can kind of fill a similar mold of Tyler Lockett, can play some slot and some outside receiver, since Lockett lines up a decent spot both inside and out. I think you can upgrade over David Moore. Unfortunately, you just can't bank on Josh Gordon. That's the unfortunate reality that the Seahawks are in, and really what Gordon's in right now. So will he ever get to play again in the NFL? Let me know what you guys think here in the comment section. Simple Y for yes, or type in N for no. I did want to mention the offensive line here again, since it's all about offense on today's show. I figure we might as well hit the O-line as well, right? I think the playoff results, and I don't think I'm alone in this sentiment, show that this team must improve the offensive line. You look at the difference between the Packers' success against the Rams and the Seahawks' success against the Rams. I mean, even without Aaron Donald, Seattle didn't move the ball that effectively. That's a big-time concern, right? 2 starters, by the way, are set to be free agents, and their 6th best offensive lineman, Cedric Ogbuehi. When you look at this depth chart for the Seahawks offensive line, I like Dwayne Brown at left tackle. I can live with Brandon Shell at right tackle. Damian Lewis, a promising right guard. Mike Iupati, whatever. He's always hurt too, right? Jordan Simmons, well, he didn't play that great either. Ethan Posick was okay. And part of what Seattle has to decide here, and I think we'll know more about their game plan by A, the OC that they hire, and B, what they do on the offensive line, is what's their plan of attack in terms of style and fits. The reality is center and offensive guard, 2 of this team's biggest needs. The interior offensive line in general screams number 1 need for me. Damian Lewis is a big-time mauler. Dwayne Brown is a great pass protector and a pretty solid run blocker as well. But with that left guard spot, center, and or maybe you try and find a new right tackle, do you go bigger guys to be great run blockers, or do you find guys who are better pass protectors? That particular area is going to be critical for Seattle. Because based on what they sign, who they hire, we'll have a good insight into terms of what this Seahawks team wants to be. Is it establish the run, or is it let Russ cook 2.0 in 2021?